this day and age, but they're very important. Back in the 19th century, brands became important when people started moving to urban centers and populations where they needed to distinguish themselves, right? They need to say that this is Mike's milk versus Sam's goat cheese, right? So you want to be able to say something about where the product came from. And that's really the evolution of brands as we know it today. Where we want to be able to distinguish, where we want to be able to stand for something, where we want to have credibility, where we want to have service, where we want to have quality. That's really where the brands come from today. Most of you probably, I'm going to make a guess here, when you start thinking about your company or your idea, you start thinking about a name. What am I going to name this thing? You know, I've got some legal documents better fill out. What am I going to call this thing? And you thought, well, you know, I'm pretty creative. Let me see what I can come up with. And then you start thinking about, oh, I need a business card. What's that logo going to look like, right? Who's been through logo development? All right? Who's been through naming development? Now, who's actually done brand research and work? Right here? Right here? So a few of us, right? The reason we wanted to talk to you about this today is because we feel like Shell feels really strongly about our brand, obviously, and what we've learned for 120 years with the same brand and the same name. And we feel like if we could talk to you guys a little bit about the value placed in a brand, it might help you in the early days as you're thinking through your business and your plans and your strategies. So, how many know, well, I don't know, it depends on if you read my biography or not. How many of you know what the Shell brand is worth today? As an asset. Because brands are actually on the balance sheet now. Shell brand is worth, depending on which valuation methodology you use, between $4 billion and $22 billion. The asset. It's not about a logo. It's not about the name. It's about the total experience. And that's really what we want to talk about when we talk about the brand. So it's past the picture. It's actually what's the experience that you have, the customer experience. How many of you drove your Ferraris here tonight and parked them up front?
Round the back.
Run the back. I put mine in front. I just, thought. So, how many of you wish you had driven your Ferraris here tonight? Right? Can anybody explain why we like Ferrari, or if you do like Ferrari, why you might like it?
Aspirational.
What is it? Inspirational?
Aspirational. Aspirational.
Yeah? What about it is aspirational?
It says
what does it say?
You can afford it.
Or somebody you know can.
Status.
Status? What else is it about maybe Ferrari?
Fashion.
Sound? Motion?
Passion.
Passion. Passion. Yeah. Have you driven one? No? What else makes you think it's a passionate brand?
The logo.
The logo. What about the logo makes it passionate?
It's a prancing horse.
A prancing horse. Yeah. It's like
Class.
it's class, right?
It's Italian.
It's Italian, yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's Italian, so it must be passionate, right? So these brands, they evoke this feeling, right? Whether you have an experience, I've never driven a Ferrari, but I think it's kind of cool. Why? I don't have an experience with Prada shoes, but I'd sure like some. What makes a Rolex different from a Swatch in terms of ability to tell time? What the product actually does?
Nothing.
Not much. Really, it tells time, right? So the product can be the product. And I think when you think about your business, the table stakes are having a good product. Apple wouldn't be Apple if their product sucked, right? If they broke, if their service was terrible, if they never worked, if they weren't functional, if they were difficult to use. So that's the table stakes. But what makes them better is the experience that people have with the product. And not only that, it's others' experiences and those stories and the stories that are told about the brand. And that's the challenge that we have in terms of managing our brand. Is what are the stories that others are telling about your brand? Well, I was having a conversation a minute ago. On the media's best day, they are probably not going to get your story right. Best reporters, best intentions, really wanting to get your story out there, talk about your company, your service, and they just don't get it right. So the way that brands really survive, and now you think about the impact of social media. Who's telling your story for you?
Yourself.
And who else?
Your friends.
And who else?
Your fans.
the rest of the planet is telling your story for you. Social media between Twitter, between Facebook, LinkedIn, the planet is talking about your brand. They are the authors of the stories about who you are. And so what you want to do is you want to consider how those stories are being told. A lot of these are outside of your control. Really, it's about their authentic experience with you. And what a brand will allow you to do is it will allow you reach and stretch. I know, for example, at Shell, that people that do business with us pretty much like us. Pretty much. We bring folks into our labs, talk to our scientists. They're like, man, these are like a bunch of tree huggers. They are committed to saving the planet. I'm like, yep, that's like 99% of the people in this company. And that's when people have an experience with us. But how do I translate that experience to the hundreds of millions of people on the planet? That's what the brand can do for you.